the message about Yahooshua, uh, about the stake and the cross. Yes, so maybe you can clarify as we engage this kind of teachings, because it needs some deeper clarification.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, let's look at that one quickly, just to clarify. It's one of the most obvious errors, if I can call it that. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
I just picked a random verse that refers to the cross. I'm going to go to the interlinear, and this is Greek interlinear. Cross.
Yes.
So what we see there is cross, stauron as the Greek. So the English bears no relation to that. So what's a stauron? It's just it's all the references to stake. Let's go back there. Stauros, cross. You see, yeah, it's, the concordance that I'm familiar with clearly sets out Stauros is a stake. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, you see there, Stauros is a Greek word for a stake. Greek word stauros means stake or upright pale. So what you see there, this is an interesting one. Anthony, because what you see here is clearly it's a stake or an upright pale. But now you go to the religious people and they twist it to make it the cross. And that's a classic example of where religion has twisted things to fit in with their false doctrines.
Okay.
But
Stauros.
Stauros is a stake or an upright pole, just a length of tree trunk. And so you saw the picture in that one. So the one nail through both wrists, one nail through both feet. And the thing to realize is that nails, as far as I can determine, were just rough iron pins, not like the nice smooth nails that you buy in the hardware store today. They were just rough, so that they tore when they were nailed through the flesh.
Okay,
and then what you had, so Yeshua's hanging like that. And I'm not sure which way around it goes, but when he's hanging like that, he can't breathe because he's pulling all the muscles in his chest. So in order to breathe, he has to push up on his feet. And the pain in his feet is so great that he just, and then the pain gets too much and he sags down and he's hanging on his wrists again. And then the pain in that gets too much and he needs to breathe. So he pushes up on his feet. So he, and he did that for 9 hours. And
9 hours.
For 9 hours. You know.
Wow.
And people don't really get just how much he suffered.
Sure.
You know, the night before they beat him, they put the crown of thorns on his head. They took him before the governor. They lashed him, and some reports say that it was what the English used to call the cat of nine tails. So it was a whip with a number of so it wasn't just one whip. It was a whip with multiple strands. And some people think that it had bits of bone, etc., tied into it. So they lashed him. And some people say that he had 49 stripes and others, I forget the number. But it was ripping the flesh from his back. So when he's on the stake, he's got the rough timber behind him and he's pulling up and down on his back, which is lacerated. And that's
so
the measure.
It is a stake, not cross.
It's a stake, not a cross.
So what is the difference?
Well, the stake is just up and down. It's a tree trunk. And the cross is up and down and across. And they supposedly executed them like that.
Or that way, as you are demonstrating, that is a cross.
That's the cross.
But the upper side, that way, okay. I see that essence. Okay.
So that's a cross.
He was hanged on a log of a tree. That is stake.
That's a stake, yeah.
Okay.
So there's not many. There you can see it there. It's just a piece of tree trunk. And one nail through the ankles or through the feet, one ankle through the wrists or the hands. And so the cross has been glorified, but the cross is actually a pagan symbol. So if you
Apostle Paul says that the message of the cross is foolishness to those who are perishing.
Correct.
He uses the word, the message of the cross.
Yeah, but again, the same translation issue. It's the message of the stake. See, this is what a cross is derived from. It's an ankh, and that the ankh in the satanic symbolism is the vagina of a woman with her legs open, with a penis penetrating her. So the cross is a pornographic symbol.
The cross is a pornographic symbol.
Yes. So Satan uses the cross to mock Yahooshua and mock Yah.
Allah. We are unaware of such a revelation. This is the kind of deepest information that we actually we are missing.
There's just this. The thing is, Anthony, the thing to understand is that after Yeshua died, you had the initial followers, the so-called disciples, the so-called apostles, emissaries, who spread out and shared the message. But then subsequently, as you read in Acts, persecution came from the Hebrews, from the Jews, the high priests and what have you. So you see Paul, going out and arresting believers. And then he became a believer, and then they arrested him. And
yes, sure.
Persecution after that, which you don't read about in the Bible, the persecution after that became more and more intense. So people were killed, people gave up, and people ran away. And so the center of the believers moved from Jerusalem into Greece. But in the process, most of those people weren't wealthy. They didn't have a whole lot of stuff to take with them. So they would take just a few writings, and there was no printing press or anything, so they had to hand copy. And what started...
So Greece is the present Russia?
No, Greece is the country of Greece.
Okay.
So this is Israel. This is the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. So this is the north of Africa. There's Egypt, Alexandria, Cairo. There's Israel, and down there somewhere is Jerusalem. Here's Turkey and Syria. Turkey over here somewhere is where the Ark of Noah landed. Okay. So the whole of civilization spread out from around eastern Turkey. And then here's Greece. And then Russia is right up here, Moscow, etc. And Kenya's there. That's where you are. Okay. So this is the Red Sea. And it was on this leg of the Red Sea that Moses and the Israelites fleeing from Egypt crossed the sea, where Father parted the waves. Okay. So what happened was that the focus moved from Israel to Greece, because remember that Paul Shaw had been planting churches in Greece. Okay. And then some of that was up from there, because that's where I am, United Kingdom in London. Okay. That's where I am, that blue dot there.
Okay.
And then they went to Rome, which is over there in Italy. And there's some reports which say that some of them went to Spain, some of them went to France, etc. But what happened was that they copied, hand copied. And in hand copying it, people thought, well, it appears that what people did was they thought, well, that's not quite clear. I'll change the wording slightly. And then the records, the Hebrew records, so Matthew, Mark, and John, the three Gospels, were all Hebrews, so they were written in Hebrew. But the Jews were destroying the records, the Romans were destroying the records, and they ended up that the only records that were left were in Greek. Okay. And then based on those Greek records, they created the Bible. And then the Bible was translated, and the Bible was translated into English about 1500. I forget the exact date. With lots of persecution, because the Roman Church, the Roman Catholic Church, was saying that only the priests could have Bibles. And the people who translated the Bible in English and German were saying, no, the individual people should have a Bible. So it was translated under persecution. But what happened is in those years, people were persecuted and they sort of backed off and they tried to make accommodations. And so they started not really observing the true feasts and fasts, but they started observing Christmas and Easter, and they started using cross instead of stake, and they started using Christ instead of anointing, and they started using the Lord instead of Yah, the eternally self-existing. And so progressively, for about 600 years or more after Yeshua died, it was degrading. It was getting more and more error. And even after that, there was error in the translation. So what's been happening in the last century or so is Father has been restoring truth. And, then Martin Luther, who founded the Protestant movement, was in Germany. And he came out of Roman Catholicism because there was a lot of error in the Roman Catholic Church. And he tried to reinstate it, but he didn't reinstate everything because he didn't know. And the thing to remember, Anthony, is people are being persecuted, people are being burned at the stake, people are being put in jail. This is not something that's happening in a relatively civilized world like the world that you and I live in today. This is a world where there's a lot of persecution of believers. So people did the best they could with what they had, and they compromised, and they didn't know the truth. I mean, the only reason I know what I know today is A, because Father has told me, but that's because I've been on so many fasts, and B, because I've got access to the internet. So if I want to look at what an ankh is, I just go Google image of an ankh, and there I've got an image of an ankh. So it's a different world that we live in today. You and I can be whatever it is, 3,000 miles apart, and we can sit on Zoom and we can have a conversation. What you and I are doing today was not even possible 30 years ago.
Sure. Yeah.
So right. so things are changing. And so don't get into judgment of the people who use cross instead of stake. It happened sometime in that period that they started calling it a cross instead of a stake, and because that was more palatable to the pagans. You see, the big mistake that happened, and it happened fairly early, was that they tried to compromise to make it easier for the unbelievers to believe. And what they did was they actually diluted the whole message. That's why I've said to you, the challenge that you face with bringing this message today is that there are a lot of people who are not going to receive the message. They're not going to accept the message. And the biggest mistake you can make, the biggest mistake I can make, is to compromise and say, well, you know what, they all want to celebrate Christmas, so we'll sort of just, we won't make a big thing about Christmas. No, the minute you compromise with the devil has got you in his sights. So you've got to say, no Christmas. No, we're going to observe tabernacles. We're going to observe Passover. We're going to observe Pentecost. We're going to observe the Day of Trumpets. We're going to observe the Day of Atonement. We're going to do the right things, no matter how much they persecute us, no matter how much people reject us, and you end up with a small congregation because the big congregation has walked away from you because they don't. They want to celebrate Christmas, etc. And that's why I said to you, I think the one thing you can do is keep going with the Sunday meetings and preach the truth on the Sunday, but have a gathering on the Saturday for those who are really keen. So say to people, if you really get what I'm telling you about, we will be meeting in the church on Saturday at 10 o'clock or whatever the time may be, and we will have some time of fellowship and worship, and we will talk about the deeper things of Yah. So you give the people on Sunday sort of milk and and whatever, and you get the people on Saturday and you give them the strong meat.
Yes,
and so you build up that core assembly of people who
yes.
really are serving Father.
It is good that we had already shared that regarding Saturday's meetings. That as time goes by, is going to do extraordinary things in our lives, and more so in my life, so that whatever I say to the congregation, they are just going to respect, and it is going to work for the good of Yes.
And what you can do with those people who meet on Saturdays is you can start saying, okay, we're now going to do a 3-day fast or a 7-day fast. And
one thing I want to blow your mind, Brother James, is that for the look of things, is bringing the young generation, youths, the newly married ones, the newly converts. That is what I'm seeing.
Excellent.
Wants me to shepherd the younger generation.
Okay.
So the goodness is that, this younger generation, the kind of food that I take from you, it is the very kind of food that I'm going to feed them, So when they begin receiving this kind of food, so that faith, they begin to grow in such kind of message. And at the course of the time, when they are mature enough, then you find that you will have planted a seed, Brother James. So the goodness of this message, to why I'm embracing it, is that God, has given me, and He is continuing to bring the young generation, and they're the right people to receive this kind of message. And I'm very much sure that it won't depart from them. They are going to be angered in this kind of revelation, and nothing whatsoever that can steal this kind of message from them. So glory be to Yah, that this kind of message, it is going to be delivered to the right people. So that is the positive side of it. So we appreciate for what Yah is doing, Brother James. And this is not for granted. And Yah has a purpose to why we are connected. This is a divine connection. Yes.
Yes. Okay, so you've got a good picture of the stake. I think the point that I was making a minute ago is to really, because most people talk about Jesus on the cross and what have you, but they don't have a deep appreciation for just how much He suffered.
Sure.
They don't have an appreciation for what I just shared with you, hanging like that, struggling to breathe, his back all lacerated, bleeding, weak, hurting. And He didn't sin.
Sure.
He could have said, but He didn't. He said, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing.
Sure.
And a big message for anybody is it doesn't matter who does what to you. Can you say, Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing?
Very powerful.
And if he could suffer like that and still say that at the end, what's your problem, so to speak?
Yes.
Why are you getting bent out of shape and resentful and what have you? Because His example is, and this comes back to this thing that Yeshua is the example. and read the Bible as though you're sure. Could you suffer like that and still be faithful to Yah? Could you suffer like that and still say, forgive them?
Sure. Uh-huh.
So, it's that piece that we've discussed is a whole message in its own right for, to get people to understand.